Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. Thanks so much for stopping by. On today's video, I'm going to show you how to cut things easily out of your photos in Photoshop. Recently I had a conversation with some of my friends and they took some photos over the weekend and they were some amazing photos. However, if there were a few tweaks made to the photo in Photoshop, they would look so much better. So I got to working on Photoshop just for the fun of it and I sent them back the modified photo and they were like, how did you do that? So I said tutorial to follow and here's the video for that. So there's a lot of things that you can do inside of Lightroom already just to manipulate photos that's really nice. You can get rid of grain on a photo. You can get rid of like fuzz or dust on somebody's shirt. But when it comes to heavy lifting, there's nothing quite like using Photoshop and the amazing powerfulness of the software. So I'm in Lightroom right now. Let's start going from Lightroom to Photoshop and I'll show you a couple different ways how you can cut things out of your images very easily. Now here we are inside of Lightroom and what I want to do, I love this photo of my daughter. However, there is a bike here on the right hand side that I don't want there. It's a little distracting. If I press my Command E key on my keyboard in Lightroom, what will happen is it'll then open up in Photoshop automatically. Now if you notice on my program, I already have, if I said edit, it already tells me edit in Adobe Photoshop. But if you don't have that, if you go to edit in other application or Command Option E on your keyboard, go to preferences, you can actually choose which application, which it says not specified here, choose from your application folder which application you actually want to use as your external editor for Lightroom. You can use a lot of things, but in this case, I'm just going to stick with Photoshop. Then once we press Command E, it's going to open up in Photoshop. Now, this is not a tutorial for advanced Photoshop users. I truly want to share somebody who maybe has never even opened Photoshop before what it's like, and for our purposes, what we need to know. Now, for instance, if I see this image here inside of Photoshop that we just opened, there is a layers section here on the right-hand side. Now, first and foremost, Photoshop is a layers-based program, meaning you can have a baseline layer and 20 different layers on top of it to kind of manipulate your photo and help you out. But for our purposes, we don't need that. It's very simple what we're gonna do. Now what we're gonna do this time is just show you how to cut this bike out of the image here very quickly. Now what I'm gonna use is what's called my lasso tool. So if you notice, originally my mouse looked like an arrow with a target on it. If I go over to lasso, now it looks like an actual lasso tool. Now, for instance, all I need to do now is just simply click and hold and draw a line around the object that I want to get rid of. And I missed a part there, so I'm actually going to Command D that to deselect. I'm going to go again and I'm going to select the bike as much as possible. And all you're going to do is try to close the loop. And once you let go of your click, you're going to see a bunch of marching ants around that object. Now is where the magic starts to happen. There's a couple different ways to access content aware fill. You could just press Shift Delete and then it's going to bring up content aware fill. Now I can click OK on that and see how it does. In this case, it did pretty good. And that's a really easy way to use content aware fill on the image. If I want to get out of that now and actually save it back to Lightroom, all I would do is just now press Command S and it's back to Lightroom in edited form. However, for now, I'm going to do it a little differently. So instead of using Command Delete, I'm going to go up to Edit and Content Aware Fill. Now in this case, it's going to show me an image here on the right of what it's going to look like, and it's going to show me an image on the left of what so far it's going to choose from. And I'm going to click over the top of my daughter here and make sure that none of her gets put into the actual fill. All I'm doing is clicking and dragging over the top of this to deselect her a little bit. And now I'm going to hit press OK and watch it do its magic. And there we go. It's a beautiful filled image with that bike cut out of it. That's one way to use cutting out things inside of Photoshop. The image I was talking about earlier that my friend actually sent me over was this image. Now, this is an image taken by Jack Saber Photography, one of my buddies in Phoenix. And I just said with this image, I said, that's an amazing image. You did a great job capturing the motion, capturing everything. But it would look a little bit better if the bike was higher in the sky as opposed to touching the horizon. So I got to work on it. Now, one thing that is just really easy, I'm using the current version of Adobe Photoshop CC the 20.0.3 release. In that version of Adobe CC, I'm gonna go over here to the fourth icon on the left, and that's called my magic wand tool. There's two buttons that appeared here, select subject and select mask. Are you ready for this? I don't know if you're ready for this. Are you ready? We're gonna click select subject, and what's gonna happen is here, like it says in the pop-up, this automatically creates a selection from the most prominent object in the photo. You ready? Select subject, and all of a sudden I get amazing marching ants around the bike. Nothing else in the photo. That's the focal point of the photo. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The AI in Photoshop now is ridiculous. I remember having to try to cut out every single object with a pen tool really nicely. This is a great way to do it. If you ever want to see what it's masked, you can quickly just go and press the Q button, and you'll notice it's put a selection around everything that it didn't select in red, and it selected everything here inside the actual photo. All right, so we're gonna get to work on this photo. So what we're gonna do first is go right back over to our magic wand tool, and now instead of saying select subject, I'm gonna say select and mask. Now before I ever do anything with the original image, I'm gonna go over to my layers image here, and I want to duplicate the existing image that's in Photoshop, because if I ever need to get back to the original, I can always just delete the one that's on top of it and go back to the original. An easy way to do that is just press Command J, and now you'll notice I'll have two separate layers. I'm gonna turn the bottom layer off for now so I can just work on the top layer. So now I'm gonna go to simply select and mask. It's then gonna bring up this kind of like interesting screen. And all I'm gonna do here is simply brush over the bike. Now, if you'll notice, it's turning the bike from this kind of like checkered pattern to a little bit clear. And that's what it's actually going to select. So if I make sure that I select just you notice I messed up there because a lot of this just went from checked like this to actually clear. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's keep painting on the biker for now. And now most of the bike is clear. However, a lot of this now is not. So in order to make my brush bigger, I could simply just go over here to radius and make the actual brush bigger. But in this case, I'm gonna press my brackets and make the brush really big. I'm gonna press and hold my Option key so that way I can unselect the area that I don't want. If you'll notice, it's kind of making the sky and a couple different areas around the bike now checked again. And I can make my brackets bigger or smaller as I go along to make sure that I'm actually kind of reselecting what I want here and not selecting the rest of the sky. So now once I'm done, I'm pretty confident in my selection. I'm going to go to OK. And now you'll notice it's cut out everything that I don't want, but I can still see some areas here. So if I want to clean this up just a little bit, I'm going to make sure I'm clicked on my mask here, the black and white small image over to the side. I'm going to press my B key to elicit my brush actually coming up. And now I'm going to make sure that I try to paint back on. Now if you notice, I actually want that to go away. I don't want it to come back. So that is all controlled by my white and black layers over here on the far left-hand side. I'm going to press my X key to switch those. And now I'm going to hide actually what I don't want anymore. So I'm going to paint really closely right back along here to make sure I paint back all the horizon I no longer want. Press X again to make sure that I kind of paint back over the tire so I don't get the tire back. I'm pretty good with that selection. Now it's not perfect, but that's okay. Now for now, I'm gonna re-hide the layer that I just edited and turn back on my background layer. Now, how do we get rid of the bike in its existing frame and reveal the bike that we want? Because I'm gonna show you how to move the bike up just a little bit. Now we're gonna go back to our friend, the Content Aware Fill, and draw a lasso or a selection just right around him. So again, using the lasso tool, just press L on your keyboard. You're gonna draw a brief selection around the bike. Make sure you it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be super close. You can just draw a selection around him. And now you're gonna press Shift Delete and press OK. And we'll see how that does. Press Command D, and now my bike's gone. I'm gonna then reveal the bike that I already cut out, select it, press my V key so I can now move it. And now I'm simply going to just move the bike up from where it's at. Now you'll notice I still got a little bit of the horizon along the bike. If I want to clean that up just again, I'm going to go back to my mask and press the B key again and erase what I don't want off the actual bike. That image looks pretty good. Now all I have to do is kind of reposition him and maybe make him a little bit smaller so he goes off the horizon just a little bit more. And that's it, folks. The image looks a little bit better now. There's separation from the horizon, from the bike wheel. I think it turned out pretty good. So hopefully that helps you in cutting things out in Photoshop. I remember there wasn't these tools around when I was first learning Photoshop, and I wish there would have been. Hopefully you guys took some value away from this video, and hopefully you guys can use it in your own life if you're starting to edit some of your photos. Until next video, thanks so much for stopping by. Click the subscribe button if you want to stay up to date to these videos. Smash the like button, please. You know, I like to know that you like my videos, if you do. You can leave the comments in the section below if this helped. And once again, thanks for stopping by. I'm Drew. I'll see you next week.